Good day and welcome to One-on-One Maths Private Tutors. Today we are looking at O-Level and IGCSE Biology, and the topic is cell structure. Cells are the small building blocks that make up living organisms. Very small living organisms such as bacteria are made up of only one cell. An insect such as a fly may contain millions of cells. No one knows for certain how many cells there are in a human being, but estimates vary between 10 times 10 to the power 12 and 50 times 10 to the power 12. So the number of cells can be estimated to be between 10 trillion to 50 trillion. The diagrams below show a typical animal cell and a typical plant cell. The similarities are that both have cell membrane, a nucleus with a nucleolus, cytoplasm, but plant cells have cell wall, chloroplasts, and a vacuole in addition. So this is a typical cheek cell from inside the mouth, and this is a typical palisade mesophyll cell from a leaf. The diagram below is a summary of the difference between plant and animal cells. Cellulose cell wall is present in plant cells but absent in animal cells. A cell membrane is present in both plant and animal cells. Plant cells have a permanent shape determined by the cell wall. Shapes can be nearly spherical, box-like, or cylindrical. In animal cells, shapes vary as there is no cell wall. Chloroplasts are present in some plant cells. Chloroplasts are responsible for the green pigment in green parts of plant cells, such as leaves. No animal cells has chloroplast in them. So chloroplast is absent in animal cells because they don't have green pigments. The vacuole in plant cell is large and permanent and central in the cytoplasm and contains cell sap. In animal cells, we have small distributed vacuoles in the cytoplasm. So we have small distributed vacuoles in the cytoplasm as opposed to a central and a permanent vacuole in plant cells. The nucleus in plant cells is often found at the side of the cell, close to the cell wall. The nucleus in animal cells is found anywhere within the cell. Both plant and animal cells have cytoplasm. Both plant and animal cells have mitochondria. Both plant and animal cells have ribosomes. Functions of cell structures. The cell membrane forms a barrier between the cell and its surroundings. It is also responsible for keeping contents of the cell inside. It also allows simple substances to enter and leave the cell. Substances such as oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water. The cell membrane controls the movement of other substances into and out of the cell. For example, glucose. The cell membrane is partially permeable, which means it is selective in what it allows into and out of the cell. The nucleus controls all activities in the cell. It also controls how cells develop. The cytoplasm is a place where many chemical reactions take place, so it is a medium for chemical reactions to take place. Reactions such as respiration and making of proteins for the cell. Chloroplasts, which are present in plant cells only, are responsible for photosynthesis, which is the process by which plants manufacture their food using carbon dioxide and water to make carbohydrates. This process is supported by light energy from the sun. The cell wall is present in plant cells only. The function of the cell wall is to stop cells from bursting when they are filled with water. The cell wall also gives shape to the cell. The cell wall is fully permeable, which means it does not restrict water and dissolved substances to pass through freely. The sap vacuole, which is present in plant cells only, is full of water to maintain the shape and firmness of the cell. It is also responsible for storing ions and sugars. The mitochondria is the site where energy is released during aerobic respiration. It is present both in plant and animal cells and uses the carbohydrates as a source of energy and breaks them down into carbon dioxide and water. So we can say aerobic respiration is the opposite process to photosynthesis. Whilst in photosynthesis we have carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light from the sun produce carbohydrates and oxygen. Respiration is the process that uses carbohydrates and oxygen to release energy and produce carbon dioxide and water. So we see that the inputs of photosynthesis are the outputs of respiration. The outputs of photosynthesis are the inputs of respiration. So photosynthesis can be thought of as a reverse process of respiration. And photosynthesis is carried out in plants only, in chloroplast, which are the green pigments we see in leaves. And respiration is carried out in both plants and animals, in mitochondria, and is a process that is responsible for providing energy to all living organisms. The ribosomes are responsible for making proteins for the cell. Now we move on to cell organelles. Plant and animal cells contain a number of small structures present in the cytoplasm of the cell. These are called cell organelles and include mitochondria, ribosome, and vesicles. So organelles are small structures suspended in the cytoplasm of a cell. Mitochondria are relatively large organelles found in all eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells are cells that have a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles and include cells of plants, animals, fungi, and protozoa. Prokaryotic cells are cells that have no nucleus and include cells of bacteria. They are often visible using the electron microscope as structures of about 1 micrometer to 5 micrometer long. So 1 micrometer is 1 times 10 to the power minus 6 meters, which is 0.000001 meters, which is 1/1,000 millimeters. So these are very small structures, but relative to other organelles, they are large. Each mitochondrion has a double membrane, the outer one of which controls the entry and exit of materials. The inner membrane forms many folds on which some of the chemical reactions of aerobic respiration take place. Mitochondria provide most of the energy that the cell requires. This is because aerobic respiration occurs in mitochondria. Cells with high rates of respiration have many mitochondria to provide sufficient energy. For example, human liver cells and insect flight muscle cells contain a vast number of mitochondria. The liver is the hottest part of our body. because many chemical reactions take place in the liver. So they have many mitochondria. So this is a diagram showing the structure of a mitochondrion. The outer membrane here and the inner membrane with many folds. Ribosomes or ribosomes are small organelles often found in large numbers in all cells. They are about 20 nanometers in diameter in eukaryotic cells, but smaller in prokaryotic cells. 20 nanometers is 0.00000002 meters, which is 1 over 10,000 millimeters. The function of ribosomes is to synthesize or make proteins, such as the enzymes involved in respiration. Most of the ribosomes in eukaryotic cells are found on the surface of rough endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum, ER, is a complex system of flattened sacs surrounded by membranes and filled with fluid. Most of the ribosomes in plant and animal cells, as well as cells of protocysts and fungi, are found on the surface of endoplasmic reticulum. Where ribosomes are present on their outer surfaces, the membranes are called rough endoplasmic reticulum. The main function of rough ER is to package and transport proteins made by the ribosomes. Cells that produce a lot of protein, for instance, those making digestive enzymes in the alimentary canal, have a huge number of ribosomes attached to a very extensive system of rough ER or RER. RER forms a network in the cytoplasm, allowing molecules to be transported within the cell. So this is a diagram of ER with ribosomes on it, so it becomes rough endoplasmic reticulum, vesicles. Small pieces of rough endoplasmic reticulum may be pinched off at the ends to form small vesicles, which can travel through the cytoplasm, attach to cell membrane, and release their contents outside the cell. Size of cells and specimens. Look at the photograph of some human cheek cells. These are human cheek cells. The cells are 1,000 times larger than in real life. This means that they have been magnified 1,000 times. To work out the actual size of a cell, measure the length of one of the magnified cells in millimeters. Let's say that it measures 13 millimeters. So this is the image. Now we can use this formula to work out the actual size. Actual size is equal to image size over magnification. So if the image size is 13 millimeters and the magnification is 1,000, we'll say 13 over 1,000, which will give us 0.013 millimeters. Different types of cells. To function efficiently, many celled organisms have cells that are specialized to carry out certain functions. This means that the function of the body are divided between different groups of cells. As an organism develops from a fertilized egg, new cells are produced. These new cells are formed by division of existing cells. These cells grow and change to become specialized for their function. So these cells take up certain shape or form that allows them to perform their duties. In this topic, we look at some examples of specialized cells and how their shape or form allows them to perform their task. Ciliated cells are found in the air passage, in the lungs, the trachea, and the bronchi, and in the oviducts in the female reproductive system. These cells have cilia on their surfaces. So these are ciliated cells. The cilia is these protrusions on the surface of the cells. The cilia beat back and forth to create a current in the fluid next to the cell surfaces. So these hair-like structures vibrate back and forth in the airways. Cilia move the mucus that traps dust and pathogens up to the nose and throat so that the dust and bacteria does not reach the lungs. The mucus traps the dust and dirt, and these ciliated cells push the mucus up and out of the lungs. In the oviducts, cilia move the egg from the ovary to the uterus. Now we look at root hair cells. This is a diagram of a root hair cell. It has an elongated protrusion into the soil. These are soil particles, and this is the whole cell with a protrusion. Root hair cells in plants are found in plant roots and have long extensions that give them a large surface area to absorb water and ions from the soil. Then we have xylem vessels. Xylem vessels are cylindrical and hollow. They are arranged into columns like pipes. The cell walls are thickened with bands or spirals of cellulose and a waterproof material called lignin. These cells allow water and ions to move from the roots to the rest of the plant. They also help to support the stem and leaves. So their structure include a waterproof material called lignin, and they are hollow to allow water to move up from the roots right up to the leaves. Then we have nerve cells or neurons. Nerve cells are highly specialized cells. They have thin extensions of the cytoplasm like wires. They are able to transmit information in the form of electrical impulses around the body. So nerve cells have a function to carry impulses around the body. So they have long cytoplasm-like wires which carry information around the body. Then we have red blood cells. Red blood cells contain the protein hemoglobin that carries oxygen. They are shaped like flattened discs. This shape provides a large surface area compared with their volume, which makes for efficient absorption of oxygen to be carried around the body. Then we have palisade mesophyll cells. These are plant cells with numerous chloroplasts in the cytoplasm. The chloroplasts trap light energy for the process photosynthesis. Palisade cells have a cell wall made up of tough cellulose, which strengthens the cell. In the cytoplasm, there is a large vacuole which is filled with cell sap. Starch grains are found in the cytoplasm. These are formed by photosynthesis and are a temporary storage of energy. So this is a diagram showing palisade mesophyll cells. They contain lots of chloroplasts, which are these green organelles responsible for production of carbohydrates in the cell. So these palisade mesophyll cells are mostly found in leaves and green parts of a plant. Another specialized cell is the sperm cell. These have a tail and are adapted for swimming. The head of the sperm carries genetic information from the male parent to the female parent. Genes from the father are present in sperm nucleus. This is the diagram of a sperm cell with a head, a middle piece, and a tail to help propel it towards the female egg cell. Egg cells are much bigger than sperm cells. They contain yolk as a store of energy. Genes of the mother are found inside the nucleus of the egg. So this is a female egg cell with a membrane, a nucleus, cytoplasm, and a jelly coat. Now we move to levels of organization. Tissue and organs. A group of similar cells is called a tissue. All the cells in a tissue look the same, and they work together to carry out a shared function. Muscle tissue is made up of identical muscle cells. These cells work together so that the muscle tissue contracts. So the function of muscle cells is to contract and relax. So we have an example of muscle cells here, similar cells working together in the same way. Cardiac muscle tissue is made of muscle cells that contract and relax together. Now we move to organs. An organ is made up of a group of different tissues that work together to perform specific functions. The heart is an example of an organ. It is made up of different tissues such as cardiac muscles, nervous tissue, fibrous tissue, and blood that work together to pump blood around the body. The stomach, lungs, brain, and kidneys are all organs. Different organs work together as part of an organ system. An organ system consists of a group of organs with related functions, working together to perform body functions. For example, the heart is an organ, the blood vessels are an organ. Both work together as part of the circulatory system. Here are some of the organ systems. The digestive system is made up of the esophagus, stomach, pancreas, liver, and intestines. The excretory system is made up of the kidneys, ureters, and bladder. The nervous system is made up of the brain, spinal cord, and the nerves. The reproductive system in females is made up of the ovaries, oviducts, uterus, and vagina. In males, the reproductive system is made up of the testes, sperm ducts, prostate glands, and the penis. All the different organ systems make up a living organism. So, from the cell, when cells are grouped together, they form tissue. When different tissues are grouped together, they form an organ. And when different organs work together, they form an organ system. When all the organ systems are united, they form an organism, such as a human. So those are the levels of organization. The diagram shows the tissues in a leaf. The tissue that carries out photosynthesis in the leaves is called mesophyll. So mesophyll cells together form mesophyll tissue. The cells making the upper layer of the mesophyll are called palisade cells. The palisade cells make up the palisade mesophyll tissue. All the cells making up this tissue look alike and do the same function. They absorb light for photosynthesis. A leaf is an organ. Other plant organs are roots and stems. Other structures such as flowers and fruits are modified leaves. So palisade mesophyll tissue along with other tissues such as mesophyll tissue and lower epidermis cell tissue, form an organ called a leaf. Now, other organs such as roots and stem combine with the leaf to form an organism which we can now call a plant. Now let's look at this question. Copy and complete the sentence using the words. A tissue is made up of cells that carry out the same function. An organ is formed from a group of tissues. An organ system is a group of organs working together to perform several body functions. Match each with the correct system from those listed on the right. So lungs and trachea make up the gas exchange system. Heart and blood vessels make up the circulatory system. Ovaries, oviducts, and uterus make up the reproductive system. Gullet, stomach, and intestines make up the digestive system. Kidneys and bladder make up the excretory system. Brain and spinal cord make up the nervous system. Arrange the following words into the correct sequence, starting with the smallest and ending with the largest. The cell is the smallest. Then we have the tissue, which is a group of cells. Then we have the organ, then the organ system, then lastly, the organism. Thank you.